Hi, I'm Kelly, and I'm glad you found yourself here. I'm having some conversations about friendship. I wrote a book about friendship, actually, and I want you to know I actually have real friends. Lindsay here is a really good friend of mine, and we actually have just celebrated being friends for a decade. 10 whole years, and we didn't even know it. I think we had a moment of like, wait, what year was that?
Yeah.
That I wrote you an email and said, hey, I don't have any friends that live by me.
Yes.
Will you be my friend?
Absolutely.
And you said, I would love to be your friend.
We rocked that like second grade style.
Yes.
Will you be my friend?
Will you
Yes,
be my
I
friend?
will.
Yes. So I know a lot about you.
Yes.
But they do not. So
They do not.
Will you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, a little bit about me. I live near Kelly now, but I am married to Layden. We have been together since high school, so that's a little weird but fun. And we have 3 children that are all under the age of 6. And so we've been through that journey actually in wanting to have kids, not being able to have kids, all that journey together in our friendship. So most of our friendship is actually in Houston, and where you lived before. No, we were friends in Houston, and then you moved to Dallas. And then most of our friendship was long distance. And then amazingly, my husband got a job offer and we moved to Dallas too.
Yes.
And now we're at the same church. Never anticipated that happening. So it's great. A wonderful gift.
Been so fun.
Yes.
And just to clarify, you and Landon have been together a long time, but
We
you've
have.
not been married since high school.
Good clarification. No, we have not been married since high school.
How long have you guys been married?
We have been married for 14 years.
Okay.
This summer.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So we could have talked about a lot of things today, but I specifically wanted to talk about technology and friendship and how the technology we have, especially with social media, how that's changed things, how it's maybe made it better or harder. I want to talk about all of that. And we've been through some of that, being friends for a decade. We've seen some of those changes. So when you think 10 years ago, 15 years ago, what friendships were like then and what they're like now, what has changed? How has technology transformed our friendships? And is it for the best? Is it for good?
Yeah, one of the biggest things I think of, and it's reflected in our relationship, is that so really Facebook became popular probably around the time that I was graduating college, and so it was not time consuming. It was not really obsessive. It was this thing, and it was there, and your primary source of friendships was still physically people you're interacting with. Who are you going to church with? Who are you going out with, hanging out with? And so having a virtual friendship was either entirely dependent on a telephone call and even some texting, but not even that. And so there was just it felt very much who physically is in front of you is probably going to be some of your closest friends. And even with you and I mean, I even remember your move to Dallas and knowing like our friendship wouldn't be over, but it would be totally different. And there's some grief in that, but there's just some reality. Like there's just not this expectation when someone moves even hundreds of miles away. It's going to be exactly like it was when we were in the same place. And it just wasn't. And you knew that. And you needed to embrace friendships that were physically in front of you. But I'm seeing a difference of we can keep everything the same and mediated all by technology. And I can keep all the people that I wanted to keep from my past, but it could possibly hinder physically the people right in front of you that you're not engaging with because you're still attached to a lot of people, pseudo friendships from the past because it's all being mediated by technology.
Right. So really, our technology has kept us from having to say goodbye to people.
Yes.
In some ways, or even grieve losses because, well, I'm just going to see you. I'm just going to FaceTime call you or something else. And do you think maybe we're trying to avoid the grief of that or avoid the changes there? Is that why we gravitate toward those things?
I think absolutely. I think we're unwilling to grieve that. And losing a friendship is really hard. If you find someone that you feel like, we've built all this trust, we've built all this history, and I cannot lose them. They have become a safe place for me, and I can't do what it takes to build that again. And so the fear of losing it, the fear of exposing yourself again to another human and going through the difficulty that it takes to do that, it takes such time to build up. And so I do think we're white knuckling, holding on to those. And avoiding uncomfortable feelings of grief and loss, and that it will be different now, not over, but different.
Right.
And trying to distance ourselves and keep everything the way it was because I liked the way it was and I don't want the new thing.
I know.
Yeah, for sure.
Why should we then have friendships right in front of us? So if we can keep that up, I can imagine somebody asking that.
Oh, yeah.
Why not? Why not do that? I need community. I need friends.
Mm-hmm.
I need people to know me. I need to be known. Well, I have all that with my friend who lives in this city over here and this city over here and this one over here. But maybe no one knows you in your local city, in your local church, or where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that a problem? And why do we need to build relationships right in front of us?
Absolutely. The advent of things like Skype, FaceTime. I remember when those things even costed more money than they do now, or more airtime. The fact that they're incredibly free. I think the danger is that the way that we shouldn't be curating teachers and resources that we're comfortable with, there's a danger in curating your friends.
Now define curate real quick, because
Curate,
I know what you mean,
yes.
but like when you talk about curating a teacher, like
curating. So by curate, I mean you carefully kind of examine and select and choose this thing over this thing. And so by necessity, you're creating an exclusivity that's like, I want A, but not B. So B is off the table. And I want that thing over there, but not this thing. And so
you're handpicking your experience for yourself.
Experiences and things that are based on you and your comfort and what you like. We usually tend to pick friends that are a lot like us. And so the danger is you have hand selected these people who you are already 100% comfortable with, which isn't a bad thing. But their distance from your life makes it difficult for them to see where you might be living your everyday, because with the mediation of technology, I can also only contact you when I'm doing well. I can also only contact you when your friendship scratches the need of, I want to complain about my husband, and I know that Kelly will talk to me about that, so I'm going to do that right now. And having people right in front of you, one, you don't get to curate that, you don't get to pick that. There's probably people that are in your immediate circle in this new place that you live that bother you. And their personality is not like your personality. And you rub each other the wrong way. And it is worthwhile to work through it. And if we're continually just leaning on our friendships that are comfortable, that are super easy, and we don't reach outside of that, we have lost the ability to relationally interact with anyone. There's a lot of good change in us when you do engage a friendship that you're like, well, this friendship's just hard because they're hard. And then you find out, actually, you might be part of the problem.
I'm hard too.
Yeah, hard too.
Yes, that's so good. I think that's why involvement in a local church too is, I'm always encouraging people to do that. Get into a local church, get into small groups there. It builds in people right around you who see you on your good and your hard days. And we need that.
Absolutely.
And you need to be exposed in that way. That's part of the benefit of friendship, is someone walking in on you on a really hard day and being able to speak truth into your life. Or encourage you. And that's really hard and vulnerable and scary. But I would say, and I know you'd probably say the same thing, those moments have been some of the most shaping as far as how friendships have changed us and made us into who we are today.
Absolutely. A really good example of the benefit of people physically right in front of you is actually after I had my first miscarriage. And I had, I think I had texted you that was happening. I'd gone to my appointment. You want to know when I was done. Probably 20, 30 minutes after my appointment was done and I came home, you showed up and with flowers and a card, and we talked. And I remember so vividly that whole conversation. And I remember honestly feeling like I was in a little bit of shock and just in that moment, beginning to process what was happening. And you were present in friendship and giving a lot of care and giving sympathy. And it giving me a little bit of a heads up, like offering things like, hey, if you don't feel like making dinner, or if you just need some help, let me know. And I hadn't even gone there emotionally myself. But that moment would not have happened had I just depended. I naturally am just going to deal with that on my own emotionally, probably in an unhealthy way. But sort of the intrusion of someone's physical friendship was hugely redeeming in that moment for me. And having friendship that is literally that close, like I'm going to drop by your house, I'm going to see how you're doing, was something I didn't know I needed that day, but I did need it.
Sometimes the best thing you need on a hard day is a hug from a friend. And someone to hold your hand and pray for you and tell you in your eyeballs, it's going to be okay. But you can't do that through a screen. And those things are not available to us through our phones and social media. And so that's just, we don't know when those moments are going to happen, those
Mhm.
moments of suffering and hard. And so if we're not working to build those friendships now, we won't have that in place when we need it.
Mhm.
So I think people now feel like people do know them, or they know other people because of this really strange
Mhm.
thing called social media, through Instagram or Facebook
Mhm.
or Twitter or whatever else it is, our YouTube channel. People know about our lives and we know about theirs.
Mhm.
And so we can maybe feel known, but we're not. And so maybe it'd be good to talk about too how social media has changed our friendship, because
Mhm.
in some ways what social media is doing is taking our private lives and publicizing them.
Right.
It's taking things that used to be, we had no way to let somebody know what we had for dinner or where we're going on the weekend. There was no
Mhm.
public forum or board to place that on. And now
Right.
there is, and we can
Yeah.
follow each other. What has that done to friendships, do you think? And how have you seen it affect yours?
I've seen it. One of the most tangible ways is dealing with a level of comparison in multiple different ways that I never had before. And one of those being, I never knew when you went out with a friend and hung out. Now I do.
Mm-hmm.
And then instantly your question is, why didn't I get invited to that thing? I would have liked to have done that.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're having to deal with a whole arena that, unless you just keep your phone off, or maybe you didn't log in that day, you just by chance find out something about someone. And you're having to deal with all these feelings in your heart of like, well, what level of friends are they? Are they more friends than me and this friend? And it awakens all these things in your heart that you were maybe just ignorant of before.
Yeah.
But that comparison alone of just finding out more information about someone. I mean, there's even memes about it that it's like, when my best friend is tagged at another photo by their good friend, but I know we're really best friends.
Yeah.
Like there's this acknowledgement of this weird moment, you know, this
Yeah.
competition of who's more friends. And it, unless it gets acknowledged as just good old fashioned jealousy, it creates a competition in us and an instant envy and a covet of who's got whose time. And who is instantly being called to go do the thing to hang out. And then I think there's also a comparison in, even if you're not directly affected by the person posting or whatever's up on social media can give you the idea that maybe people's friendships are deeper than you think they are. There's this idea that I see these two ladies post all the time that they go on trips together and that they hang out and they just know each other's souls, and I don't really have anyone like that. Whatever they're presenting to you like publicly on the internet may or may not be true. It could probably be really grossly inflated, but it creates this expectation in you like, I should have someone like that. Those two people may not even feel that deeply about each other, but that's what's getting put on the internet. And so whether it's a comparison and an envy with a direct relationship and a friendship that you have, and now they're hanging out with someone else and you find that threatening, or whether it just creates an expectation of, I should have this friend that I know better than my own soul and we share everything together. That's all created. It can be inflated and created by what is on the internet. It may not even be real, but it creates an expectation of what you should have a friendship like this.
Yeah. I think it's good too to point out to people who maybe, like we've been through some of those transitions with social media, have experienced friendships before that was a thing and after it was a thing. And the reality is, it's not like we're being more excluded from things now. We're just more aware of it.
Right.
I'm sure my friends 10 years ago were getting invited to birthday parties or wedding showers or trips to go with people, and I just didn't know about it. And now I'm aware. And so it creates a new battlefield, a new arena for our souls to deal with. And I think that's good for somebody who's younger listening too, to go, this isn't how it always was. And this isn't how, this level and way of doing friendship is not the only way even. Like if you got off social media, it'd be okay,
Right.
And the same thing for, this expectation of friendship. I think you and I've talked about that some.
Yeah.
But I think what romantic comedies maybe did for us in our marriages, put the expectation way up here, and it's just is never really there. I think social media does that for friendship. It puts these pictures of friends with hashtags and memes and this level of friendship that if any of us were honest, we're like, is that a thing that you can have with somebody, that intensive of friendship or close of a friendship, and you never have problems and it's never hard and you're never insecure? That's not my experience, but it creates this heightened expectation that I don't think was there before, before social media. It's like, I probably would be pretty content. And now seeing that, it inserts discontentment. that wasn't there before.
Right.
And so the question then is, how do we fight for health moving forward in the midst of social media? Like, what are some practical things we can do in trying to build real life healthy friends when we're fighting kind of this heightened expectation, feeling excluded all the time?
Yeah.
How do we move forward?
Moving forward, I think one of the biggest things, as always, that we can do is anytime the reaction to something is significantly larger, I think, than the situation, you've hit a nerve that is much deeper than the surface. And so I think it's so helpful to engage what's being hurt. Like, engage what just made you react real big, that your friend just hung out with another friend and you only found out about it through a picture. And your reaction's real big. Engage that in prayer. And talk to God about that and say, I felt excluded and left out and not valued, and take that ultimately to God. And God will say, God will respond back. Why did you not feel valuable if I value you? And it's important to engage those hard things because they're exposing something in us that is likely misplaced with our friendship. And why we can't be happy for another's friendship, and why we're jealously guarding. We want an exclusive right to a human being, and we just we're not allowed to really have that kind of exclusive right in friendship. You're not owed that. So engaging the discomfort that arises when it arises, not
Don't shove it down.
Don't shove it down and be like, I'm great with this, or I will passively get back at them later.
Right.
Engage it with God, honestly, in prayer and with His Word, because there's a great opportunity for maturing, and there's a great opportunity to know God in that moment better, rather than just casting it down or just shoving it way deep down so you don't feel it anymore, because it's uncomfortable. It can be painful, but engage it and meet with God there. That's probably first biggest. Engage God in what's uncomfortable and what's painful, and watch Him transform that.
That's good.
So that our friendships can be better. So they're not based on human things, but on Christ and a selfless, sacrificial love for one another.
Yeah. Another practice that I found helpful with social media is when I see posts on social media, using that as a way to pray for my friends. And so I used to pick who I followed on Instagram based on like, who am I praying for in my life? Because I want to know about my friend who lives across the country now. I want to know what's going on with her. So social media is not bad. We don't demonize it, but to use it as a cause for prayer, for celebrating what's going on in someone else's life, and even commenting maybe and celebrating that, instead of making it all about me and what that says about me, and trying to take that insecurity to God. And then instead pray for those people and celebrate them.
It brings an enormous amount of freedom when there's trust in a relationship that you can hang out with whoever you want to hang out with. And I know we're still friends. We're still friends at the end of the day. It's great.
Totally.
It's really comforting.
And part of that's because we've built real friendship in person through good and hard, which is scary, but then builds trust and allows you to sustain your friendship through all the ups and downs of weird technology and social media things. So, well, Linz, thanks so much for talking with me today. This book really wouldn't exist without my real life friends who have been with me through the ups and downs. So if you get a chance to read Friendish, a lot of my stories, I've changed all the names in there, so you won't see Lindsay in there, but you're in a lot of those stories, and it's because of really good friends in my life that I wrote this book, because I want people to have those friendships, and because it's changed who I am. So I hope you get a chance to check out Friendish, and thanks, Linz, for being here today.
Thanks for having me.